In May of 2024, we explored several miles of the Aquiagua River in search of a legendary lost cave and the ancient stone quarries from which dozens of megalithic stone slabs were carved and transported to the archaeological site of San Miguel Ixtapan. We now continue our journey along the Aquiagua River, exploring one of its tributaries, the Rio San Felipe, near the village of San Francisco Los Nopales, famous for its pre-Hispanic salt mines located only a short distance from San Miguel Ixtapan. In 2023, a perfectly carved megalithic stone slab was discovered near the village of San Francisco, on what was probably an ancient buried pyramid. The slab was later removed and transported using traditional methods, including levers, pulleys, and wooden rollers, and installed in a permanent shelter in the center of the village of San Francisco. In the summer of 2024, an exceptional drought in this part of Mexico offered the possibility to walk almost the entire course of the San Felipe River, from the village of San Francisco Los Nopales to the point where it merges with the Aquiagua River near San Miguel Ixtapan. Just like the Aquiagua River, the San Felipe runs through a deep river gorge, flanked by precipitous cliffs. The ancient inhabitants of the region enhanced these natural defenses with the construction of stone walls, terraces, and fortifications. All of these to protect their most precious natural resource, salt. Once nearly as precious as gold, salt has been mined in San Miguel Ixtapan since pre-Hispanic times, an activity that continues today following the same traditional methods. Salt was extracted from hundreds of salt evaporation ponds, fed by natural springs and by the highly mineralized waters of the Aquiagua and San Felipe rivers.
We're now in the village of San Francisco Los Nopales, and we're about to walk down these steps along Prehispanic salt evaporation ponds. And we'll be walking about 2.5 kilometers of the river, almost until San Miguel Ixtapan, see what else we may find. So we just got down to the river. You can see all these Prehispanic salt evaporation ponds down there. We're walking along the river from here, from San Francisco Los Nopales, down to the village of San Miguel Ixtapan, seeing if we can find any more evidence of how the megalithic stone slabs were transported.
These square cement platforms are the modern version of the pre-Hispanic salt evaporation ponds, which were cut directly from bedrock or built up with clay on specially constructed stone terraces along the riverbed. That's where we're headed now. Right by the riverbed, we find the first of the ancient rock-cut evaporation ponds, carved from one large boulder and partially filled with sediment. All around are numerous pre-Hispanic terraces, with more rock-cut structures and evaporation ponds farther down the river. As we get closer, we can see more of these remarkable rock-cut evaporation ponds. These were all cut from the natural bedrock, along the river banks, and are up to 1 meter, sometimes nearly 1.5 meters deep. These salt ponds are probably over 1,000 years old and have remained in use since pre-Hispanic times, as shown by the modern walls built around some of them, where the rock has eroded away. Compared to the modern ones, the pre-Hispanic ponds, which are all monolithic, appear to be much deeper, having certainly required an enormous effort to carve from the cliff face. The color of the water is a result of the high salt and mineral content, particularly accentuated by the severe drought of the past few months. In this area, we can see more evaporation ponds further up the cliff, all of which must be entirely submerged for most of the year and during the rainy season. This time, however, the river has nearly completely dried up, revealing these very interesting rock-cut structures completely. Where the water accumulates in ponds, one can see a thin crust of salt forming upon the surface. This is due to the presence of significant amounts of salt and minerals dissolved in the water, which give it this peculiar orange color. Seen from up close, the salt crystals are almost pyramidal in shape. The crystals form at the bottom of the ponds as the water evaporates, sticking to the rock surface and crystallizing into geometric pyramidal shapes. There are several dozen salt evaporation ponds just in this small section, showing evidence of having been in use for hundreds, if not thousands of years. Nowhere else in Mesoamerica have we seen monolithic ponds like these, although the technique greatly resembles that of the Peruvian salt evaporation ponds of Maras, that are similarly found in the high Andes of Peru, northwest of Cusco. More ponds were dug directly into the cliff face, forming body-sized alcoves that almost resembled sarcophagi, with more and more of the rock-cut evaporation ponds all around. The next section contains even more evaporation ponds, this time built on top of stone terraces overlooking the now dry bed of the San Felipe River. The hill was completely covered in terraces built from river stones, which testify to the scale of salt production in ancient times. Only a few small sections of the ancient pre-Hispanic terraces are still in use today. Nearly at the top of the terraces is where the carved stone slab of San Francisco Los Nopales was discovered, on what may have been a large ancient pyramid, suggesting a possible connection between the carved slabs and the rituals of salt production. Unlike the monolithic salt evaporation ponds found closer to the riverbed, small clay basins were built on the upper terraces directly on top of some large flagstones, where salt collected through natural evaporation and precipitation processes, and could easily be removed from the bottom of each container. Traditional salt extraction techniques still live side by side with more modern processes, all on the same 1,000-year-old pre-Hispanic terraces used by generations of salineros. Overall, these pre-Hispanic salt mines offer a striking spectacle of hundreds of evaporation ponds, some monolithic, others built up with river stones or clay. From here, we continue our journey along the San Felipe River.
We're now starting our exploration of this stretch of river after leaving the salt evaporation ponds. It also looks like the river here is pretty much completely dry.
We walk for about another mile along the dry river bed, crossing only a few remaining pools of mostly stagnant water after so many months of drought. We finally reached the ruins of what appears to be another ancient settlement on the right bank of the river, where more stone terraces and salt evaporation ponds may be seen. The construction style is identical to that of San Francisco Los Nopales, except that these terraces appear now to be completely abandoned. Here too, we find monolithic salt evaporation ponds, carved directly from the natural bedrock along the river banks. Some of the monolithic ponds are quite deep, and are for some reason only found on the right-hand side of the river, having in some cases completely silted in and become filled with sediments. All along the now dry river bed may be seen the remnants of ancient salt evaporation ponds carved from bedrock and dilapidated terraces. The river is both a source of sustenance for the local population and an important route of communication between the central Mexican highlands and the Pacific coast, along which influences from as far as Peru and South America may have reached the Mexican plateau. While more research is needed to confirm this hypothesis, the particular techniques of salt production found in the area of San Miguel Ixtapan, together with its megalithic stonework and carved stone slabs, are nearly identical to those found in the Andes of Peru, suggesting the intriguing possibility of transoceanic contact at the origin of this mysterious site.